The Cincinnati Reds head to the Twin Cities to take on the Minnesota Twins, where two hot starts are going to overcome cold temperatures and bring you really good baseball.
You are Locked On MLB Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, I'm Jeff Carr. Steve Offenbaker was the guy that just talked, and we are with CJ Baumgartner. We are the hosts of Locked On Reds and Locked On Twins, and we're getting you set for this weekend series up at Target Field. A little bit later on, we'll tell you why each team could either win or lose this series. In just a few minutes, we'll give you the key contributors for both teams, but we're going to start with these hot starts that both teams are experiencing because the Reds are looking exactly as we hoped they would getting into this season. And of course, the Twins are the best team in the American League, just as everybody thought, going all the way back to the trade deadline, right, CJ?
Oh yeah, exactly. I think the poll, was like 100% Twins fans were in agreement that next year through the first couple weeks of the season, they'd be in first place. No, actually like 95.6% of the fan base had the lowest vibes in all of baseball. So there's the 4.3 center club, which has been a big thing on Twins Twitter of people who believed in the start. It's been insane, and we're riding this thing until the wheels fall off.
And I think it's funny, Steve, because when you look at what the Reds have done, you have to go back 20 years to find a better record for the Reds in their first 19 games. You literally have to go back to the year 2006 when they started 12-7 instead of 11-8.
Yeah, they finally addressed the missing component, the thing that, we've been saying for years, the things that anybody that follows the Reds closely has been saying for years, is that the lineup lacked power and they weren't really going to be able to make any moves until they addressed that. They went out, they did address the power. They got Eugenio Suarez to come in and hit some power. And thus far, he does have a few long balls, but the big surprise has been the rookie sensation. Sal Stewart has come on this scene flaming hot, and he is just absolutely crushing the baseball and making himself look superhuman in the process. Talk about adding a jolt to this lineup. Rookie starting in the 4-hole, playing first base for the Reds, demolishing baseballs. He's going to have a good time up in the Twin Cities.
He's looking really good. He's looking legit. And I feel like we can trust what he's putting out there right now. Like, what about the Twins' hot start has you this jazzed up, CJ? Because I know that, it seems like things have really gone well. They were clobbering the ball against Boston, and Boston's got some good pitching. And so what do Reds fans look to expect from this Twins side?
Well, yeah, there was a lot of talk about the lineup and hitting with runners in scoring position and all that stuff. But I think when you talk with the Twins and kind of going into the year, despite the fact that vibes were the lowest that they've been in a very long time since they were talking about contraction back in the early 2000s, the fact is that this team's starting pitching and their starting pitching depth was really going to be the thing that drove this team. And then day one of full squad workouts, Pablo Lopez has elbow issues. He needs Tommy John surgery. You lose your ace right away. And that kind of left a lot of question marks. But two guys that have really rose to the challenge have been Mick Abel and Taj Bradley, two additions the Twins got in that infamous sell-off last August. And they've been great. Mick Abel had a start where he had 7 innings, shutout ball, 10 strikeouts. Taj Bradley has been a great start to the season. Joe Ryan has been Joe Ryan. Bailey Ober's been a nice little surprise. Simeon Woods-Richardson has had his ups and downs. But 1 through 5, this is a really solid starting rotation. I think they're top 12 right now in starter ERA in all of baseball. Earlier in the week, they were top 8. And it just goes to show you that when you have a good starting rotation and you can just keep yourselves in the fight, it allows you some wiggle room to come through on some of these games. And that's really what's helped is their starting rotation setting the tone through these first few weeks of the season.
CJ, I want to ask you real quick. I just would jump in, Jeff. I want to ask CJ real quick. Is the power that this Minnesota lineup is displaying to be believed? Is this legit? Looks like in 19 games, they've got 26 home runs thus far. That seems a little extraordinary for how this team was built in the offseason heading into the 2026 season.
Yeah, it's fascinating, right? So the Twins, I know everybody remembers, a long time ago, the Bomba squad and everything like that. And they've kind of been a team that's always felt like they've been in the top 12 in baseball in home runs. And the problem is it's felt like if you ask the fan base, it's a lot of solo home runs, or how many times are you trying to swing for the fences and trying to do the little things and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, when you look at the Twins and their power, It's, 3 home runs have come from Byron Buxton. You've gotten a little bit from Josh Bell. I think when you look at guys towards the bottom of the lineup, like Brooks Lee, I don't know how much that power is going to stick around. He's hit a few home runs over the last week. I think guys like Byron Buxton, Josh Bell, Matt Wallner are kind of those 3 power hitters that I expect to have power throughout the season. The rest of the guys, it's kind of up in the air. It kind of comes and goes with the power stroke there. So with those guys, I'm not buying it. With kind of some of the big hitters that we expect, like Buxton, who all of a sudden has hit 3 in the last week, and then you have Josh Bell, who's been a nice signing for them. Those are kind of the guys that you're going to still expect to have the power. The rest of the guys, it's going to be touch and go.
It sounds like from what we're talking about here, though, like you really led with the pitching. The Reds pitching has been very good to this point, albeit the guys that are going for the Reds in this series haven't shown their best stuff yet. They've got Abbott on the mound in a couple of days. Brady Singer's on the mound in game 3, and then you have Brandon Williamson on the mound here on Friday night. And so when all of that is said and done, like I kind of want to see more from them. Like based on the season performances so far, you would argue that there's some validity in giving the edge to what we've seen from Twins pitching. We've got to see the Reds actually go out there, the Reds starting pitching go out in there and do it. The bullpen side of things, though, for the Reds has been a massive advantage for them, and they have been able to shut people down when they go to the bullpen in such a way that I think we sort of expected this side to be really good when it comes to relief pitching, but, man, they've been even better to that point. And so looking at how the pitching is lining up and the fact that it's going to be some cold weather baseball, we think that the bats are going to go ice cold, and it's going to be a lot of 2-1 ball games.
Could see 2-1 ball games for sure. Looking at the Reds bullpen right now, the best ERA in the National League as they head into this series. And they're doing that without Caleb Ferguson, who they signed as a free agent. Started the year on the disabled list, hasn't been available yet, but the bullpen has really come into its own. The starting pitching that you were talking about, Jeff, the fact of the matter is there is nobody in the Reds rotation right now that has hit their stride. Everybody is still kind of trying to get their legs under them, trying to get their arms behind them, trying to get control and get settled in. Maybe this is the series where a couple of the guys turn the corners. Everybody's shown flashes, CJ. If they figure it out during this series and can quiet those bats, it's going to be a good time for us up there because they're just this close. And I am ready for them to really turn a corner and break out.
Yeah, the bullpens are really going to be the fascinating part, because if we assume kind of that the starting rotations are equal, well, the Twins bullpen is definitely the weakest link on the team. When they talk about the sell-off of last year's trade deadline, they really didn't sell too many bats out of the ordinary. What they sold was their entire bullpen. When you look at Joan Duran, Griffin Jacks, Brock Stewart, Danny Colomb, Louis Varland, they sold off their entire bullpen, and they've had to rebuild it on the fly. And it's going about as well as you'd expect a team that's cut payroll the last 3 years investing in a bullpen. Their bullpen ERA is 5, 23rd in baseball, whereas Cincinnati is top. So I think if it's close and both starters keep it kind of at a tie game, a 1-run game into those final 3 innings, I got to give Cincinnati the advantage in that one.
It's going to be interesting to see how that goes on, although I know for a fact that there's going to be a dude in that Twins outfield that's going to have something to say about it, because it feels like whenever the Reds play the Twins, Byron Buxton goes off. And that was a guy that a lot of Reds fans, like last trade deadline, when they saw that the Twins were just trading everybody that wasn't nailed down, they're like, let's go get Byron Buxton. Reds didn't end up doing that. Kind of feels like Byron Buxton's probably going to go off in this series too. So can the Reds keep him at bay? And who else do Reds pitching really need to focus on, as well as why Sal Stewart is just one part of a 2-part monster in this Reds lineup is coming up next. The next time that you get down to the ballpark, you have got to use GameTime. We use GameTime every single time, Steve and I do, when it goes to going to a Reds game. And CJ, I know that GameTime is really helpful for you as well. When you go to Target Field, what's the best place to sit?
I mean, there's a lot of good places. I love Target Field. I think it's one of the most underrated ballparks in baseball. I got a brother that's going to the game Friday night. He loves the left field bleacher seats. It's a great spot to get a home run ball. Plus, it's classic baseball to sit in those bleacher seats. You got to love them.
Steve, where are we sitting?
If you're looking for a deal on GameTime, jump on the GameTime app for GABP at Great American Ballpark. Look for tickets in the Handlebar or the Champions Club. You find tickets there, discounted. Those come with unlimited food. And in the case of the Handlebar, you get six beverages included in that price too. So jump on there, find those tickets when they're listed. That is the steal of the century.
And the best way to do that is last minute, as close as you can get to first pitch. Game Time discounts tickets, and they show you your view from your seat. So no matter where you go, no matter what stadium you're going to, you're going to know the best spot to sit. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB to save $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's the Game Time app. Download it right now. Promo code LOCKEDON to save $20 off your first purchase. That's Game Time. Thanks for making Locked On Reds and Locked On Twins part of your day. You always do this every single day. Now make sure you take it up a notch. Go ad-free when Locked On Twins and Locked On Reds. We've got ad-free feeds. We've got members-only group chats on Discord where you can talk to Steve, CJ, myself. You can talk to other NL Central, AL Central hosts, all the hosts in the Locked On MLB network, and all the fans on those channels as well. Go to lockedonreds.supercast.com or lockedontwins.supercast.com to learn more about that today. All right, so with this series, guys, like there's a couple of key contributors in the Reds lineup for sure. We mentioned Sal Stewart already. Elly De La Cruz obviously has started off very nicely to the season, and he's coming off of a game where some could argue that he was the big reason that the Reds lost. He grounded into a double play in a key inning where they had guys on base, and then the very next inning had a bad error that opened the door for the Giants to score the 3 runs that they scored in the game, all in one inning. He's going to get back on the right track here in Minnesota. So when you look at the Reds lineup, 3-4 is going to be a tough spot, which should be in any lineup. Obviously, it's like, oh, what? Really deep analysis here, talking about the 3-4 hitters. But those are the two guys. It feels like if you can get them, and if you can keep them at bay, you stand a really good shot of shutting down the Reds lineup. Is it Byron, Buxton, and everybody else you just don't know who's it going to be? Or like, who are the main culprits here in the Twins lineup that's going to get things going?
Yeah, for the Twins, I mean, Byron Buxton is somebody who's always been a streaky hitter. And the good news for Twins fans is he is on his heater week right now. Like, he's a guy who's been feeling it, had a few home runs in that Boston series. He's ready to roll, finding his stride. He's definitely a guy you want to be careful of. And here's the thing with Byron Buxton, when you know he's having a good time, Byron Buxton's a free swinger. If he's swinging at a lot of pitches, a lot of junk down low, you know it's probably not going to be a great series for him. He's going to strike out. If he lays those off and he's comfortable, he's going to have a tear. He's going to be able to have a really good game for himself. But outside of Byron Buxton, guy named Luke Keeschall, second baseman. He's a pure contact hitter, somebody the Twins are really a fan of, would have been a good rookie of the year candidate last year had he not gotten hurt. And he's been a guy that can get himself on base and steal and run around. That's been a guy who's helpful. But I think one of the biggest additions for the Twins this offseason was Josh Bell. He doesn't have a stat sheet that blows you away, but is consistent. And he's been really good this year. He's had a really nice start to Twins territory, OPS above 800. And the fact of him being on that lineup is it just gave the Twins have prospects and Royce Lewis, Brooks Lee, Luke Keeschall, some of these guys where their development, their ceiling, their floor, you don't know where it's at. Josh Bell is a guy, you know, his ceiling isn't very high, but you know his floor is, and he's been able to provide that production for the Twins in the middle of their lineup. And same thing goes for Vic Caratini, the backup catcher, first baseman. Those 3 guys have really been a good veteran anchor for the Twins throughout the first few weeks.
Steve, I know that Byron Buxton has barely played against the Reds in his career. A grand total of 7 games. He has 5 home runs in 7 career games against the Reds. He just absolutely murders them.
He's this close to going on the Christian Yelich list. And for the Twins listeners, what that is for me is a list of players that should never see another pitch to hit. And Christian Yelich is the player on that list for the Cincinnati Reds. He should never see a pitch. Buxton, very, very close to that. You know, Jeff, you look at this Cincinnati Reds team, and we've talked about Sal Stewart. Everybody knows about Elly De La Cruz. Those are the 1-2 punch. Those are the big hitters, 3 and 4 in the lineup, the guys you've got to watch out for. But for the Reds to have continued success offensively, score runs, do damage, a couple guys are going to have to start to heat up and come along. In this series, I'm looking for Eugenio Suarez to continue to move in the direction he's been moving. He's been seeing the ball very, very well. He's been making good contact. The other day, he went 3 for 4. He got his batting average up to 250, which is very high for him over the last couple years. The power has not quite come yet. I'm looking for him to turn that corner. I know it's going to be cold. I know the air is going to be heavy. I would like to see him hit a couple balls out of target field over the course of this series. That would go a long way into helping the Reds win this series. The other thing that I need from this Cincinnati Reds team over these next 3 games is, for the love of God, anybody in right field, please contribute somehow, any way possible. Hit the ball, get on base, do something. That's what I need for this team to win.
Fun fact, Eugenio Suarez, 19 career games at target field. He has a 300 batting average when he plays at target field. Something about that target field, Suarez loves to see it. And, of course, we will also have the reunion of Spencer Steer and the Minnesota Twins in the trade that the Twins loved, where they got Tyler Mahle, and he was on the team. Although, to be honest with
but
and to be honest with you, like it seemed like it was a clear and far away huge win for the Redlegs. Spencer Steer is the only player from that trade that is still on the team. CES is now a member of the Baltimore Orioles, as he was sent off for ownership's favorite player, cash considerations. And when it comes to Spencer Steer, he's kind of had a slow start to the season consistently. However, he's coming off a bit of a fiery series against the Giants, where he fired up Giants pitchers. And I wonder if that fire carries over to his former team that traded him.
Could be. I mean, it's very fascinating to look at some of the dominoes and how that trade goes. I actually just talked about it on Locked On Twins last week, relitigating the trade with the news that CES got DFA'd, and kind of said, like, at the time it looked like a complete loss for the Twins, and then now it's kind of ended up looking like a wash. I think enough time has passed that it probably isn't a big deal. But that being said, players get to be that level because they hold those grudges, or they have that competitive fire, or they have that kind of dog in them to compete, or whatever you want to use. But yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see. One element I'm looking to, though, is Emilio Pagán, who's been, from what I've seen from a distance, very effective for Cincinnati, which if you ask Twins fans about Emilio Pagán, their skin crawls for some reason. Like, he was a guy that was sent over in another trade when the team sent Taylor Rogers away, and that was not a very well-received trade at the time. And Pagán was okay, I think, in Minnesota, but he gave up so many high leverage home runs and so many blown saves in 2022 that it didn't matter what he did in 2023. They just didn't like him, and he's had some success in Cincinnati. So it'd be very Minnesota Twins for him to get 2 saves in the series.
I'm hoping the timing of this thing allows for Emilio Pagán to not pitch. You may not have heard, but he tweaked his hamstring the other day. He hasn't pitched in a game since then. He did throw a side. Everybody says everything is okay. And in Cincinnati Red speak, that means, of course, he's going to have surgery or something. I don't know. Our medical staff, not the most reliable. I'm just saying. I love the timing of baseball and how beautiful things are. Over the course of the last several days, the Cincinnati Reds destroyed the aforementioned Tyler Mahle when he came back to Great American Ballpark to pitch for the Giants. And now Spencer Steer may be getting to go on a little revenge tour, highlighting the trade as he goes back to Target Field. So baseball has a way of presenting these little, side street stories as we go through early season baseball that gives us something to watch and root for. So I hope Spencer Steer comes in and has himself a series. And I hope that you don't see Emilio Pagán, because I want that hamstring rested for later in the season.
And considering all of these storylines, there's definitely some reasons to believe in both teams getting at least 2 out of 3 when it comes to these next 3 games in Target Field. We're going to tell you why each team could win or lose the series coming up next. The NHL playoffs are here, where every shift matters. Every moment is intense, and the pressure is at its highest. When it comes to the NHL playoffs, Game 7, baby. That's all I got to say. And just like performance matters on the ice, it matters off the ice too. That's where Rugiet comes in. Rugiet offers treatments designed to help you get ready and stay ready when it matters most. Their top option, Rugiet Ready, combines clinically proven ingredients in a simple mint that dissolves under your tongue. It works fast, often in about 15 minutes, and it can last up to 36 hours. It's all about confidence and feeling like yourself again. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnNHL and get 15% off your ED treatment. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNHL for 15% off. Rugiet, performance medicine for men. A good reminder that at the end of each ball game, both of our podcast channels have a postcast for you with the Locked On Twins postcast and the Locked On Reds postcast. As soon as the final out ends, you can find the reaction right here on Locked On Reds and Locked On Twins. All right, 3-game series, getting set. Minneapolis. It's going to be somewhere between -40 and -2. I don't know, something like that. At least according to our broadcast crew, it sounds like it's going to be really cold, and they might as well be playing hockey instead of baseball. But it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. At least early on, the Twins are playing some hot baseball. So are the Reds. We should see some good ball down at the old ball yard. So when it comes to the Twins, CJ, what are you looking for them to get 2 out of 3?
I mean, I'm looking for starting pitching to continue doing what it's doing. And for the Twins right now, when you look at the start of the series and they're throwing Joe Ryan, Taj Bradley, Bailey Ober, those are 3 arms that you can expect to win 2 out of those 3 games. If the starting pitching stays strong, those guys are given a little bit longer leash by new manager Derek Shelton because the bullpen is so bad. They basically are like, hey, if you are able to pitch into the 7th, if you want to work out of that jam, I'll give you the opportunity because you're still better than whoever's warming up over in the pen. So Joe Ryan, Tadley, having some good starts. I think those 2 guys having solid outings, putting the team in a position to win. The Twins are 7-3 at Target Field this year. And when you look at weighted runs created plus, they're 12th in baseball at home. They're a team that just has played really well at Target Field this year. So they're doing some home cooking, starting pitching, setting the tone. And even in the cold weather, the Twins swept the Tigers, beating Skubal, beating Framber Valdez, and more in that cold weather. So it hasn't bothered them yet. So we'll see if that changes this weekend. But I think the Twins will end up coming 2 out of 3 over the weekend because of the starting pitching.
Kind of feels like the Reds were trying to build some momentum against the Giants, Steve. How do they keep that up in Minnesota?
Well, I think if you look at the Cincinnati Reds, and I say this with an asterisk, the Reds are the more complete team of the 2 teams. The asterisk is the aforementioned starting pitching that I talked about a little while ago. If the starting pitching is the version that they have shown flashes of, the Reds are going to win this series. The Reds could sweep this series if all 3 guys come to play in their starts. If they struggle off and on like they have thus far, it's going to be more of a crapshoot. 2 of 3, I think the Reds can win. But if Andrew Abbott pitches the way that he can, if Brandon Williamson continues to move forward, if Brady Singer is just Brady Singer-esque from last year, I think the Reds could sweep this series. And by the way, I forgot that Derek Shelton is the manager of the Minnesota Twins right now. And I have a personal favor. If someone could get word to him and ask him if he would be okay if we just drop Ke'Bryan Hayes off at the Minnesota dugout and just leave him there on our way out of town.
Now, let's calm down.
Let me know. Let me know.
What please. Are we trying to get rid of our man here? Like, come on now. I do understand that he hasn't hit very well at this point, but it's early, Steve. It's early. But I know this. Brady Singer did have a good start his last time out. Andrew Abbott and Brandon Williamson are coming off some bad ones, though. So how do they bounce back? Can they bounce back against the Twins lineup that has really shown the power early? Can they turn the power off in this cold weather ball game or in these cold weather ball games? That's going to be a big part of this. But the other part of this has been there's been a couple of key games here recently where the Reds seem to have shot themselves in the foot. And we know from the last couple of years with the core of this team largely sticking together, they're pretty good at doing that at the wrong times. And the wrong times have been when they're hitting spots in the schedule when you think that they should start to stack wins on each other and start to build their case for the division. And then all of a sudden they don't play up to what they should be doing. And so this is kind of one of those series that, like, at the beginning of the season, and I know that the Twins are hot, we mark this as a series that they should win. And so do they play like a team that should win, or are they constantly getting in their own way? Because with as hot as the Twins are, they present a challenge. But Lord knows it's really hard to beat two different teams in one game. And if you're trying to beat the Twins and the Reds, you're probably not going to win if you're the Reds. And so that's what I worry about the most when it comes to the Reds and their chances of winning this series, because we've seen this story happen too many times over the last couple of years. And Terry Francona's had all the right messaging at the beginning of the season to tell him, now is the time, the division's the goal, all of this other stuff. But when it comes down to the day-to-day game action, how do the Reds show up for this? They got to show up for this series like they showed up for the Giants series, like they showed up for the Red Sox series, because they all – And when it comes to the Twins, what are the pitfalls that you kind of worry about with this?
Yeah. So with the Twins, the bullpen is obviously the biggest thing, right? Like, that's the thing that I'm just worried about all the time. Even when the Twins built a 13-0 lead on Garrett Crochet, there was still way too much time for the bullpen to make that interesting. So I think the Twins bullpen is certainly something to keep an eye on. The other thing is against lefties. Now, the Twins have been one of the better hitting teams against left-handed pitching over the last couple weeks. And I think that's kind of been, we talked about it on the show earlier in the week, was that they've faced so much left-handed pitching that they've been a bad lineup against lefties generally, but you've seen so many left-handed pitching. I think like 11 out of your first 18 games, the starters have been left-handed. You've seen so much left-handed pitching that it doesn't really bother you anymore. But that being said, the Twins do have some weaknesses and platoon mismatches against left-handed pitching. And so if the Twins struggle against that, then you could see kind of the old Twins that we expect showing up.
And we're throwing two lefties out of 3 games. So there you go.
There's more, like, all the time.
I was going to say, between that and then we can roll in Maul and Burke, and you got a couple of lefties that you could just keep that same lineup all the way through the game and really force Shelton to either keep some guys on the bench or force them to play in spots where maybe they're not the most equipped or the most favorable matchups.
So, CJ, while we've got you here, I know we've got a lot of Locked On Reds listeners with their ears on this right now. We may have some folks heading up to Minnesota, to the Twin Cities, to check out these ball games. What are a couple just real quick, can't miss things they should be doing in the ballpark, around the ballpark area? What should they be seeing while they're up there visiting your city?
Oh, there's a lot of really cool things about Target Field. I love one of them, and maybe this is a little too Minnesota centric, but one of them, I believe it's over in left field. It's called Town Ball Tavern. There's a lot of amateur baseball in Minnesota, where a bunch of local towns, get together, they play each other, and they have a whole kind of little bar area dedicated, a bunch of pictures and history of all that. So just a bunch of really cool baseball. If you're just a baseball fan in general, they got a lot of really cool stories, a lot of really cool things to go check out there. There is the, if you're just looking at Minnesota Twins and World Series history, there's a little Kirby Puckett Memorial. There's the Golden Seat, that Game 6 home run that he hit in 1991 is there. That's really cool to check out. And just overall, those are a couple of kind of Twins baseball, Minnesota baseball history stuff. But overall, there's not a bad seat in that ballpark. It's really cool to check out. It's just a cool ballpark to walk around and kind of get your different views. There's a lot of good standing room only in center field, being right above the bullpen. Target Field's a really cool ballpark. And I will say their helmet nachos, really, really good. And there's $2 beers before first pitch. So, just try and get a little early for that.
See, now that's a happy hour
There
deal.
it is. There it is.
The Reds
They
used
rolled
to have
it
a
out this
happy hour
season
deal.
basically to beg people to come to the ballpark.
Oh, that's beautiful, because the Reds had one a couple of years ago that was $5 before first pitch, and that felt kind of nice. And they bumped it up to $6, like we're made of money or something.
I will say, CJ, that Game 6 home run call for Kirby Puckett is my favorite Jack Buck call of all time.
It's so
we'll
good.
see you tomorrow night. I love that. One of my all-time favorite World Series moments.
It's a great World Series, even though obviously I don't even think my parents had met by that point. So it's well beyond me, but it's just a cool World Series to go
How
back
nice he just called me old. So nicely, Jeff. So nice.
Somebody else has to, I guess.
It's mainly me just saying it's been a while since the Twins have done anything of note in the postseason. So
same.
Right there with you. Same.
Definitely same. And on that depressing note, that's where we're going to end today's podcast. Thanks everybody for checking out this crossover here. Like we mentioned, postcasts are ready at the end of each ball game. And then, of course, on Monday, we're going to break down this series from a Reds or a Twins angle, whether you're checking out Locked On Reds or Locked On Twins, because we are all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.